And now I would like to give the floor to Orisa Lutsevich, head of the Chatham House Ukraine Forum. Orisa will be presenting the survey that Chatham House just finished. Orisa, over to you. Come up to us.
Thank you. Good day. I welcome you here. I feel like I'm in, I would say, the most important community, the most important type of audience which can be found in my professional life. Because always I have considered that civil society, Ukrainian civil society, is in fact that driver of modernization, transformation, and that is why my colleagues are here who know that since the beginning of my career in this analytical center, which is one of the oldest in Europe and is rather respected, I was always trying to understand the power, what the power is of the civil society, what's its spirit and function. Unfortunately, now we are beginning to rethink lots of points about that. So I just remember that in 2022, when I had the first meeting in Lugano, and we were speaking about the post-war recovery. In 2023, we were speaking about reconstruction as well, but when we are speaking at the West with our high officials, we are speaking about survival already. But I would just suggest that the word survival should be replaced with the word resilience. And it seems to me that resilience is the phenomenon which my latest big work before the beginning of full-scale invasion had the name of Resilient Ukraine, where I was trying to understand, after the annexation of Crimea, after the occupation of our regions in Ukraine, in the east and in the south, what helped people to survive at the moment, to found new strength. That is why I can see this resilience, and it seems to me this process of recovery, of quick recovery and strengthening of the rare, has this embedded transformational potential. I would even begin with the fact little just roosters. I shouldn't even explain where this picture was taken from. This is the rooster which was saved, and it has become the symbol of resilience. We know that now we have this visualization in all of the decorations. This is the rooster which was in fact preserved there, but it seems to me that this kind of recovery of the function as resilience and preparation to the crisis situation is important in the Ukrainian conditions, but still it's not sufficient enough, because it's not enough to come back to the state which we used to have before the attack, before the war, to win in this war, as this war is really asymmetrical. And that is why, well, this is the image which was done too quickly maybe and found there, but maybe this rooster has to be transformed into something different. And in the Western academic literature we are speaking about the dividend of resilience. This is the phenomena when this situation, crisis situation, is used to create a new level of, in fact, opposition and resilience and resistance, because in case when we win, still the Russian neighbor will never vanish, even if it transforms from the aggressor to the neighbor. The climate changes will never vanish, and other, in fact, shakes of our story will still exist. That is why it's a unique chance for Ukraine to use this process of strengthening ourselves during the war to become such a rooster. Maybe it's not that beautiful, but still it has necessary functions for us. That is why, in my research, all of that can be found online, I will not delve deeper into that, we conducted a test. How you can measure resilience and which elements have to be there in the society, let alone the individual resilience. You can find that at our website. We will disseminate this presentation, but here we speak about those 5 elements, components of resilience. In English there is such a wonderful word, pillar. Yes, pillars. Still, we would like to see it a nice Greek pillar, each of them, of resilience. So when I was preparing the poll, the sociological poll of the our organization before the conference in Berlin. We had the similar poll before the conference in London last year, just to understand what is taking place, on the one hand with the sector itself, and on the other hand how the civil society sees this resilience. Well, let me skip it. So this is the first slide, which is taken from this poll. I'd like to say that 217 organizations took part in it, both regional and Kyiv ones, which are working at the national level. So they are more or less divided in similar groups, 30% per each region. 80% of the organizations said that they are already doing recovery. They self-identify that they are into this topic already. So when we posed this question, where you see what's needed to be strengthened just now during the war for Ukraine to be resilient, here you can see the first place was taken to provide reintegration of veterans and ex-combatants, the ones who are already coming back to the civil life. I think that for many people it is already connected with the social cohesion, with harmony in the communities. People can see that there are new issues emerging, so you need to deal with them. The second place is taken, and it's not a surprise for you, is the fight against corruption and strengthening of rule of law. The third place is the creation of security coalitions and safety. So again, this is the preliminary data analysis. There is research, and this poll was over just a day before yesterday, so we will go on analyzing and publishing it. This is just the vast stroke of what we can see now already. If we now speak about this poll, there was one more question, which was about the societally important challenges. I will not show you this graph because it really coincides with the present one. The first place is taken again by reintegration of veterans, prosthetics, new jobs for them, and overcoming consequences of PTSD. And the second place is taken, by the way, it's an interesting one, strengthening of unity in the country, within the country, around the victory. It is considered to be a challenge for the people, and you and we, as the civil sector, we think that it should be taken care of. And the third place of the socially important challenge is the help for the war generation of children and youth for high-quality education. So altogether, the sector itself is working in the following spheres among the organizations which answered the questions of the poll. We do not have the work with veterans here, maybe we just skipped it, but we have the work with the internally displaced persons, with the vulnerable groups, and with the participation in the planning of the post-war recovery. And last year, we were also asking what the priorities are of the recovery itself, what's necessary to pay attention to. So we can see that modernization of institutions is taking a huge part here, a huge share. It is higher among the people who are working in Kyiv and a bit lower among those who are working in the regions, but altogether it is at the high level. What has changed in comparison with the last year is the importance of the business support and local economy as well. I think it is undoubtedly connected with the delays of internal funding and understanding that Ukraine maybe wouldn't be able to achieve the level of resistance and victory which it would like to achieve without the internal resource. Well, the third place, what had the substantial growth, is the support of mental health, the importance of your personal resilience to overcome and to resist and to stand against those challenges. As well, we were asking, as well as the last year, what the risks are in the planning and the preparation to the recovery. This is the comparison with the year before the last. A bad piece of news which we are bringing to Berlin is the improper use of money and resources, and the corruption risks unfortunately have increased. I would like to add that we have already added the continuation of combats as a risk, and it undoubtedly takes the first place. But in the regions, the risks of combats and active warfare is lower than corruption risks. So we need to think and to search answers for these questions, because that is an important fact, and undoubtedly it is based upon the information taken from the media, because we can see that there are different checks, controls. We can see the information in Kyiv region that there are 90 cases of the there have been 90 investigations opened for the abuse of the money as a consequence of aggression. So this is the fact. Here, unfortunately, we don't have a positive tendency as well. We can see the involvement of the sector in the recovery, how it sees itself at the regional level. The situation has not improved. It has improved a bit at the national level, so maybe this is the question for debates. I would like to hear from you why it happened like that, which events and processes you consider to be efficient enough, because in the polls, in the survey, we have in different spheres, we've asked about different spheres, and as for efficient ones, they consider the participation for the development of projects for international donors, monitoring at the places, and the participation in the working groups at the ministries and local self-governing authorities. A very low estimate is in the consultations of Ukraine Facility, DREAM, and involvement even in the recovery conference in Berlin. In the regions, this indicator is a bit higher, 22% considered it's efficient enough, but the national level took only 11%. And the main obstacle, how the civil society sees that, is the lack of political will at the high level and the lack of information, which is more about the regional organizations. As for the proposals and suggestions for the efficient involvement models, here you can see a lot concerns the creation of such intersectoral groups on consultations on the creation and development of policies. And the civil society would like to cooperate with the executive branch authorities. And in the same way, there is the wish, especially at the national level, to create this special council at the interinstitutional international donor platform, where it would be possible to hear the voice of the civil society better. And to conclude how donors could help the involvement of civil society, what's interesting here, we can see a very strong will of conditionality, as it should be one of the conditions to provide financial aid in Kyiv. The civil organizations could take this funding through the mechanisms of international financial institutions, where they would be involved as co-executors as well. In the regions, they would like to see the direct funding, which would go directly to the communities. In the comments, we heard many questions. Why all of that is going through Kyiv? Why can't the funding go directly to the regions? This problem is not new, but so far I don't have the answer for that. So to conclude, to have some time for discussion, it seems to me that the resilience as an approach in the civil society in Ukraine is resonating. People can see their value added. There is one question about that. First of all, the strengthening of resilience and societal cohesion. It seems to me that this is a very mature view onto the issues. There is the wish of constructive cooperation. I wouldn't say that this includes any antagonism. At least I do not see it. And also the wish to co-act and to be co-responsible, not just to be a watchdog or a monitor. It is there, of course, but it seems to me that the main emotion is the co-participation and co-execution. But besides that, the civil sector, as it is already working for some outcome. Unfortunately, during the year, I don't see any ecosystem of cooperation, neither strong institutions which could absorb this wish of the civil sector, nor anything else. And it seems to me there is the risk to lose a certain chance that the military period, the war period, could be used for the development of such institutions and mechanisms to move the money within the country, which could provide civil monitoring and participation and the digital component, so as when the war is over, we could be able to launch these mechanisms through bigger sums of money and to have the proper level of trust to this money. And I will think on recommendations as well, because I will try to make it as a document before the conference in Berlin. It seems to me that the main recommendations are the strengthening of pressure onto the implementation of reforms and cooperation in their implementation. Maybe we should create something like as we had already the council before, as we are speaking about societal challenges which the society sees, the veterans, the education, the unity and social cohesion, maybe we should create such a task force as well. And it seems to me that the approaches of resilience have to be implemented between the sectors, in the intersectoral level, both for the businesses and for the project management and for the management of the communities and even public organizations management, because we can see it not only as a phenomenon, it's a system which claims a certain type of management. Ukraine facility, by the way, foresees 20% of the use of money at the local level, and here we can see still the issue open. What will be the mechanism of the distribution of such money? In the same way, Ukraine facility includes the opportunity to improve the qualification of the sector itself. The survey showed only that not that many organizations had an opportunity to have appropriations. 44 in the regions and about 50 in Kiev, so not that many people could do that. Maybe we need to promote this topic in Berlin of the advisory board at the public organizations. But still it is a kind of proposal. It's interesting to hear your opinion as well. Thank you. That's it from me. Thank you, Orysia. Thank you for this research. Those are rather interesting results. It would be interesting how they are connected with the expert conclusions. Now we have the time for the Q&A session. Colleagues, please let me know, raising your hand. The mic should be compulsory. It will soon reach you. Dear colleagues, if you are online with us, please write your questions and comments into the chat box. So please, who is taking the mic, please introduce yourself and the organization which you represent, and please don't take more than 1 or 2 minutes. It could be either a question or a comment. I have a short question and a short comment. I'm Andrei Yeremenko, Active Group. So the question is, in the requests you had the modernization of public administration and management and support of business. Did you make it any specific in this survey or in any other research what that is? And the comment is the following one. In our researches, when we researched the civil society, we saw the stable systematic issue. When there was the gap between the protocols of the state official who is dealing according to his instruction and the, in fact, civil activist who is rushing instantly and he doesn't have enough time for documents. So what's the lack? What's the gap? We need a kind of an interpreter or the translator from the bureaucratic language into the human language. Thank you. We can listen to 2 more questions at least. Please, we do not see you, so please, we'd like to see you. Yes, let me crumble out. Gleb Vyshminsky, the Center of Economic Strategy. Orysia, I have the following question. If we look from my perspective, this is a very low share of those who say that there is an issue or a challenge, in one of the first slides, to provide the budget allocations, but the high share of those who consider that you should support business. What's your vision altogether of our community, of civil society? Where does the civil society would like where would the civil society like to take the money from? Or they have such a perception that the West owes us and has to provide us with even more money as long as it takes. Thank you. Any other questions, or maybe these 2? Well, let me answer. We did not make it more specific which modernization exactly and of which institutions. It is altogether concerns the management and governance. It's more about the efficiency of the governance and the response for the challenges which Ukraine faces. By the way, this discourse about corruption and institutions rather frequently in the West is mixed. with inefficiency and corruption. So Ukraine has improved its ranking in the rate of efficiency of governance, but it is still not at the level of Poland. These measurements were conducted before the war. So this emphasis on the rule of law, which we could see among the elements which should be strengthened, is one of the main societal challenges for the rule of law. As for your question about funding, what's interesting, there was one more question about the risks of recovery or the lack of funding. Could it be one of the risks? So it took at least only 30%. And I saw that in comparison with the last year, we now have really substantial issues with allocation of funds. 73 billion were during the last year. We are not speaking about the military aid. We are speaking about the budget of Ukraine and international donors. Well, as of today, there's only 11 billion. Of course, it's not the end of the year, but even if EU facility has 30 billion, it will be 41 altogether. But last year, there was 73 billion. So the question is how Ukraine is going to fill the budget, which money should be used to recover the community, and we need to understand that. Maybe on the one hand the people are out of savings and people feel that in their circle of communication, so this element is increasing, but the inefficiency of the use of budget money can lead to the wish so if the business has money, then it supports the army. So unfortunately, during the last year, the trust towards the state institutions, including the president, is decreasing because of different reasons, and we can discuss that. But unfortunately, it is the risk, because when I was writing my work in 2022, I was saying that this trust can be a kind of artificial GMO for recovery, but so far it does not look like that we will be able to use that, and there is the risk that the trust will be decreasing and the community will start surviving instead of providing resilience, because the state is organizing this process inefficiently.
Thank you. One question from over there, and one question from over here, and a question from online participants. Orysia Tishchenko, National Platform for Cohesion and Unity. Thank you for the presentation. I have a question. So what you measured was resilience. What kind of resilience? Energy sector resilience, societal resilience. As far as I understand, your survey was more about social resilience. So what's the correlation between these? Social cohesion and certain challenges of the present day. There's various data, various surveys on that. Maybe I misunderstood something. Redistributing money, is it about social resilience or energy resilience? So what exactly did you imply? Thank you for these clarifications. And a question here. Thank you. Hi, Orysia. Taras Yatsenko, Media Hub. Tvoje Mesto Media Hub. Yes, I can see you. Okay, I'll come closer for you to see me better. I have a brief question and a comment. My question is about experts. There were a lot of options of how international donors can help, but there was no option of assisting with expertise. We're now making a video project on long-term resilience where we talk to various people, and there are video stories, and Martin Dupentier, French architect, has told us that he has been helping a lot of towns to rebuild. But the problem with the money can be resolved, and the problem with experts is quite tangible. So maybe the West can help us with that. And a comment. Outside communication. I remember last year's London conference. I remember the reaction of people in the audience to what Mustafa Nayyem has said about not managing to use all of the money. And I remember people responding to the stories from the businesses, resilience, story from Olena Lutsevich from Horizon Capitals. So maybe we should refrain from making a mistake that Ukrainian journalists recently made at Perugia, in Perugia at Forum, and the entire panel, Ukrainian panel, was about corruption. Maybe we need to focus on specific resilience stories that we can share to make sure this support does not dwindle. I'll take one question from the chat to Orisa from Lena Pavlenko. Is it visible in the survey that civil society organizations are ready to continue studying and expanding their knowledge? Orisa, you can answer these questions. I can see a few more people wanting to ask more. The shortest question to Olena's question is yes. I think there is willingness. And I'm actually reading this from two questions in the survey. First, understanding we don't have enough experts and brain drain, people leaving because of the war, demographic crisis. And this is one of the challenges that people are seeing on the regional level, especially. And the survey did not have a question, are you interested in training? Most of respondents would have said yes. It's just that there's a deficit of the training courses of applied nature, easily digestible. So there's a niche for development there. Regarding your question, Yulia, it wasn't a deep dive into the matter of resilience, and I don't like the phrase social cohesion. It appeared in the survey in the context of civil society's organization's role. So they are making a declaration virtually that they can do it for Ukrainian public, how they see it, how they understand resilience and its difference from cohesion. Survival was not there. This would require additional research. I didn't have resources for that. Well, you know, as it always happens, one survey is over and you need to start another one. I showed you the resilience barometer that we did based on Moldova, and you could clearly see the whole of society, which includes economy, debunking disinformation, resilience. We could do a similar survey in Ukraine, and we'll see more about resilience in Ukraine. And I could see Zonishchenko here. They are actually working with that. And what's remarkable, there's a demand for that. People want to know more. So what you, Taras, asked about innovation, case studies, I think we need to look into what has been working in these 2 years of war, what models are operational. We need to present it to the Western experts to scale it up. Because going back to the question about readiness to hear Western experts, I think, yes, if these are experts who can, on a very practical level, assist the communities to resolve the challenges that were mentioned, many in Ukraine would like to hear how the reintegration of veterans could be done in Ukraine. So there's this openness and willingness. Thank you, dear colleagues. We have a few minutes left for the last round of questions. We will have one more presentation and one more discussion, and then a large general discussion. I saw 2 raised hands here. Who is going to ask the question first? Thank you. Thank you, Tamara Markova, Zelena Dossier Information Center. I'm seeing very low numbers in green recovery, in environmental recovery. So question 1 is, what's the correlation with the last year's number? Did the numbers go up or down? And my second question is the topic of green recovery. As far as I know, a conference should have a side event on green recovery. but there's not enough attention to it. It's an air raid alert. Wailing. Shall we go downstairs or there's another room?